Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Indie Creative Comics Podcast, where we are all about independent comics. I'm one of your hosts, Angel, with John Pepe.
How's it going, Angel?
Oh, dude, it is a sad Monday. Yeah, we've got a lot to talk about, and we've got some reviews, but holy shit, the one person that I swear to God, it is funny that I thought it was just gonna outlive everybody. We get the news over the weekend, yeah, I just fucking. And somebody said something to me today. It was like, "Yeah, Chuck Norris has been dead for like 4 years already. It's just the Grim Reaper was too scared to collect his body." That he just left him alive. And I was just like, God damn, that's fucking good, because there's so many out there. So, all right, before we're jumping ahead and we're going to go off on a tangent, but just like to welcome you guys to another episode of the Indie Creative Comics Podcast. This is episode 187. Dude, we're getting close to the bicentennial. That's going to be awesome. Hopefully we can make it past of America's birthday first and then get to our bicentennial. Yeah, we've got some reviews for you guys this week, but we also got some news. I think we're going to kick it off with the news. We've got some really sad news. So we were just mentioning him. Yeah. The one and only Chucky Norris. Dude, Joseph, howdy, man. Yeah, did you hear about Chuck Norris? Just finally biting the bullet. It's just crazy. I mean, we were just talking about these the other day, right? We were having a conversation about who would be the first action star from he's more from the 70s, because I think Missing in Action was early 80s and stuff.
Yeah, that was right? 80s, the Vietnam, era of the 80s, right? When everybody was revisiting the Vietnam War. Yep. Lone Wolf McQuade was one of his big ones, but that was I think also early 80s. I always put that in the 70s, yes, but yeah. I mean, famously, this is one thing I went back to rewatch upon hearing the news. I think it's Enter the Dragon. He's got that fight with Bruce Lee. He's a clean-shaven, young, upcoming Chuck Norris. The Roman Coliseum fight at the end of that movie, fantastic. And yeah, all-around tough guy. Walker, Texas Ranger was his big show throughout the 90s and early 2000s. Found it very interesting. His because he just celebrated his 86th birthday. About a week ago. A couple days after his birthday, he did that video. I don't get older, I level up.
Yep.
And yes, he did really level up after that. So you know what? He's kicking ass in the great beyond now. He's being a tough guy in the great beyond. And again, has a little bit of a comic book connection because Chuck Norris and Karate Commandos is a cartoon show that was based around him in the 80s, and that got the comic book treatment, I think, from Marvel's Young Readers Star Comics imprint from the 80s. Yep. So,
dude, made a cameo on Dodgeball too.
Was in Dodgeball, yeah.
Gave the thumbs up, and then he played. He did a couple of cameos on Sylvester Stallone's movie Expendables.
Yeah.
All those guys, all the 80s. Big action stars were in Expendables. Yeah. I think he pretty much got everybody except for the one guy that everybody hates, which is Steven Seagal.
It's funny that the picture you chose, I believe, is from Code of Silence, which was 85 or 86.
Yes,
that's the one Chuck Norris movie I actually saw in the theaters when it came out.
Really?
So that's really interesting that you picked that one. Yeah.
That's when Uzis were huge.
Yeah, the little Uzis. Yeah, Snake Eyes had them. Chuck's got to have them.
All over the place. That was the 80s gut.
Yep. But and just a quick side note here, we don't get political on this show. And I know that Chuck Norris was a very outspoken conservative, and I don't think that should matter in the case of looking at his pop culture impact and how he did resonate even before he was a meme. And again, he wouldn't be this meme if it wasn't for the stamp that he left, in entertainment, as well as encouraging people to get involved into the martial arts, encouraging people to stay healthy, to stay active, to look as great as he did, So yeah, I don't agree with him politically. goddamn, what a sad loss just to the entertainment pop culture world, just people who were into martial arts, or just again, that that, as we know now, that pursuit of trying to stay as young as possible for as long as you can, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that anybody who takes a time in the wake of someone's death, I always say you don't speak ill of the dead. So anybody who takes that time to say bad things about someone who just passed away, that they might not have agreed with their politics or whatever, because you know I've seen that in this case, Chuck, as well as something else, but whatever. I'm sorry, you don't speak ill of the freshly dead. You know, you can make some jokes, fine, but like, don't attack the person for their beliefs didn't come in line with you, because I'm sure before you realize that, you like Chuck Norris.
Yes. Yeah, I think everybody did too. And so, I mean, to gain the reputation of being the king of that type of meme, where like when the sun looks at Chuck Norris, the sun puts on sunglasses, kind of thing. Just the whole flip on all of that stuff is just fantastic. So,
it's like the Keith Richards is immortal meme to a tough guy level. Take it to that tough guy level, you know. So it's great. It's great.
Yeah, I lost. I mean, and like I said, he wasn't doing a lot towards the end. I mean, I remember remember the Total Gym information.
Yeah, that's right. He got
that, was on it and stuff. Like he had all these freaking, and I was all throughout like the late 80s, maybe early 90s and stuff like that, to mid 90s. So yeah, I mean, just a cornerstone of pop culture for sure. Definitely on the pantheon of what we consider sort of like that 80s muscle freaking action star hero. He'd be on that for sure.
You know what though? Part of the appeal too was he wasn't. Yeah, I mean, sure, he had to do the photo op, right? Where there's a little bit of glisten and there's some muscle showing, but he wasn't Stallone, he wasn't Schwarzenegger, he wasn't oiled up and rippling muscles. He was,
and neither was Bruce Willis.
And neither was Bruce Willis. So that's another thing that kind of, I think, in my mind, sort of puts them above Arnold and Sly, is that they were attainable. They were the every guy that you could, you didn't have to be jacked and have your muscles showing all the time. You could just walk in with a cowboy hat and a beard and an attitude and just get shit done.
Yes. It's all good. So, yeah, lost a good one there. So, yeah, Chuck, do your thing up there. Hang out with Carl Weathers, watch some Action Jackson, and then you get to go. All right, this next one definitely hit home. It was unexpected. I didn't know he was even sick for a while. But, yeah, Sam Keith. And it's funny because we talk about, artists, and we say artist objective. But when you look at artists that stand out, when you can just look at their work and just know their signature without even having a signature on the art, that is an artist that sticks out. And Sam Keith was one. And I had been exposed to his art mostly from I think there was some Wizard magazine covers that he did. I remember seeing a Wolverine piece that he did as well. I know he did a mini off of that. I didn't read it. I just remember seeing the pieces. And then when Image happened and he came over and he did the Max, dude, I fell in love with that book. His style is just, it's so unique. The way that he draws women to you, they're not like overly sexualized, but they're very voluptuous. Like it's 2D, it's like flat paper, but they feel really just like they stand out.
He's one of those artists that gave texture, that really gave a dimension. Like I always think of a Bernie Wrightson, Richard Corbin, guys that give that 3D feel on a flat page, and he was definitely in that line. Definitely, cut his teeth and really made his fame with what I guess consider the superhero monster / horror genre, right? Because he did a lot of, like you said, Wolverine, you got the Batman Joker thing there, but always had this really, and then of course Max, big hulking, monster guy. Has had this superhero stuff, really did have this just really pushing the anatomy boundaries, but also the visual aesthetic to really fall in line with a horror kind of suspense vibe. Max had great success. People still try to pick up Max comics to this day. Got that crown jewel of an indie creator. Got to team up with that character with Batman. Also got an animated series that's still
on MTV, right?
MTV, yeah. Yep. And then I know in about 20 or so years ago, he started leaning more, and I think through the Homage imprint and through Vertigo, some more creator-owned stuff that was less in the superhero monster realm, but more in that suspense, or in some cases almost slice of life. I think of like Zero Girl as one of them,
Yeah.
and and again, co-creator of Sandman. Neil Gaiman always
First
gets
5
that
issues, right?
credit.
Yep.
Mike Dringenberg gets a lot of credit, but Sam Keith did those first 5 issues. So my first exposure, I think, to his art proper was that first issue of Sandman that I bought off the rack at late '88, and it just blew me away with the storytelling capability, the lushness and and texture of the art, and just going in with that horror, because that book started as a horror book, especially in that first issue, and just really leaning into that. And then the Hell issue that he did, just really got to design just this great interpretation of Hell, and all that stuff does still carry over, in the Netflix adaptation and whatever has been done, as far as aesthetically after that, like, especially with Lucifer and things like that. But yeah, he was right there at the beginning of that series as well. And just
it was one of the things that I appreciated when I picked up Preludes and Nocturnes is the art in that book is just amazing. I mean, it took me a while to eat through Gaiman's text. And speech bubbles, but I mean, it's a fantastic story, and I think for its time there was nothing like it. And then you couple it with Sam Keith's art, and the detail in that book is just crazy.
That just gooey detail in the artwork.
It's perfect for what Gaiman was trying to attain with his story. So,
well, that's the other thing too, is I don't think Sam Keith as an artist ever did anything that wasn't in line with what he could do. He never tried to do something that he couldn't do. I think does that make sense? Like,
he
again,
wouldn't do a true superhero book.
Yeah, he would always gravitate towards things that he knew he could just let loose and rip. I never phoned it in, and just always kind of stayed true to his sensibilities and his style.
Yeah. Too young, man. What was he, like 50 something, right?
64. 64. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, he's gonna do his thing up there, so hang out with the other artists and talk to Chuck for a little bit, Sam. But shit, man. Yeah, I still have my issue 1 of Max, number 1.
Nice.
It's 35 issues, so now I'm just gonna have to go back and see if I can just collect the whole series. I think I have a couple of them and stuff like that. But yeah, when I first saw that book come out, because I was like mid-90s, it was like after Image, just I think probably after the first year, he had come over because I think he was doing stuff with Marvel, and that book was just fucking. It was on point. Just yeah. All right, cool. So I think you had one more person that we wanted to talk about.
Yeah. So just again in that pop culture entertainment world, and then again another tragic death too soon. I think he was 54. Nicholas Brendan, who was Xander on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and was always sort of like in that Scooby Gang concept. He was always, he was always the rock, the sort of like that solid center of the team, right, as far as just, because he didn't have the powers. He wasn't a witch. He wasn't a slayer. He was just their friend and kind of navigating, being a real guy in these extraordinary scenarios. And I just think as an actor, he pulled that off really well, really likable and relatable, and just, I think, a very honest performance. And again, of course, got a lot of play in the Dark Horse comics adaptations, and I think later IDW, or at some point I think IDW might have the Buffy license, but basically, Buffy comics were licensed and to indie publishers. So again, that kind of has another route of exposure for people who maybe were introduced to the show and his character through the comics. There's this great quote from the show that he had that I always think was that character in a nutshell, and just a great sort of sensibility. I laugh in the face of danger, and then I hide until danger goes away. And I just, great talent. I know he fell on some hard times and had some issues, and unfortunately I think was, with his family, and was getting the help I think that he needed for a time. Just unfortunately, life will kill you. And unfortunately,
And
unfortunately,
it's only March.
It's only March. Yes.
We've lost a handful of like really solid people. It's just like, we've got, 9 more months to go of losses. So so we got the sad news out of the way. Just really some great people that were part of, or definitely a cornerstone in my life, 90s and 80s and stuff like that. So it's unfortunate. We're just going to keep losing them. Some of them, too young still.
Gosh. Yeah.
I mean, 86 is a nice
life well
number.
lived. That's a life well lived.
Yeah, and you could swear he lived like 10 more lifetimes because of how much he's just been in the zeitgeist and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So, but all right, cool. All right, we do have reviews, but one last piece of news before we move on. Yeah, we're still promoting. We think we've got 8 days to go, and we're like 92% funded, so we're almost there, gang. Just want to thank you guys for getting us close. We're going to try to get to the finish line on this. So if you want to help support independent comics, ProjectShadowBreed.com. This is a new character that we're bringing in, the Persuader, who's has just been brought in to kick some ass, and not the nice ass, some really bad ass. This is issue number 2, but there are opportunities to pick up issue number 1 as well, so that you're all caught up. You can do it digitally, or you can do hard copies. We got some really cool covers on that as well. So head over to ProjectShadowBreed.com and help bring us closer to the finish line. All right, we're going to move on to comic reviews because we got rid of the sad news. All right, so we have, I think, 3 books this week. We actually have 1 Kickstarter review, which I'm going to start off with first, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to add this to the stage. This one is called Beautiful Thelma. So this one is actually from New Horizon Comics, and I did some research on them. This is a Black-owned imprint. Which is pretty cool. So all of the characters or the stories are driven are Black leads. So it'd be similar to like Milestone comics. This one, they're based out of,
or like what Malcolm McFadden, who we had on the show, is doing. That world building he's doing, very cool. Yep. And Owen Ratliff of Black Salt too, so,
doing Black Salt as well. Yeah, but he's like all over the place, which is fantastic. But these guys. Oh, he's based out of Chicago. They're based out of Chicago. And I picked up Beautiful Thelma. I picked up actually a cover. Let me see if I can bring this up here real quick. That was by a different artist. This is the variant cover.
Nice. Yeah.
Very Art Gem-esque is why I picked it. But the cover artist himself is what did I had it over here? Is the Leo Diaz. Really fucking cool. So that's why I picked up that one. All right.
What's that paper? It sounds good. It sounds good, like solid.
Hardstyle. You can knock somebody out with this.
I like it.
So it's like 100 pound or whatever it is. All for that. All right. So here we go. Writers: H.W. Pete. Artist is Giorgia Rosati. Inker is Giorgia Rosati. She's Italian. Read on that. Colorist is Henry Lopez. And then letters by Anwell Designs, Justin Birch. We've used him before. He's actually really good. All right, cool. So this is issue number 1, and they're creating sort of like their universe in the New Horizon kind of universe. Their first character is called Spirit, the Woman of Hope. She's mentioned in this book. So this is where it was a little bit discombobulated for me because there was mention of her, and everything starts with what happened in that book, Spirit. There's an event that happens that kind of trickles, I guess, in whatever other books are going to happen throughout them. So there's just a small portion in there and mention of this particular character. And you'll see the editor's note say, see Spirit number 1. And I'm like, oh, shit, now I got to go and figure out what happened there so that whatever I just read will make a little bit more sense or give a little bit more context. Not that it didn't make sense, just bring more context to what was being said. But basically you have this character name is Kalisha, her real name, and her vigilante name is Thema, which I believe translates to Queen from Ghani, is what I was reading. I'm not 100% accurate. If I'm misinterpreting, then I apologize. But basically, you have sort of like a street level vigilante. It's a female daredevil. She owns a community center in Lincolnwood, Chicago, for kids to be able to come in off the streets and help them and keep them off the streets from the gangs and stuff like that, separated. You've got a couple of stories that are merging all together, but they're all based around wanting to take out the vigilante. The only people that are supporting the vigilante are the local cops and the local community, because she's the only one that actually does anything to help the community. And when I say local cops that stay out of her way when she's doing her thing. Not necessarily helping the community, but just staying out of her way so that she can help the community kind of thing. And then so you get introduced to a news reporter who is actually being switched to cover her from somebody else who wants to take her down. We don't know why. We don't know what his motives are or what he has against her. He just wants to take her down. And then towards the end, we see a cop from another precinct, another district, who is had a request to transfer to the precinct in her town. And then they ask why, and he's sort of had like this thought bubble on themselves. He wants to take Thema down. We don't know why, kind of thing. We do get to see her in action, where she's taking down certain criminals. And then there's these two kids that come to the community centers that she really likes to take care of. And we see the gangs trying to recruit them. And then there's this one cop who constantly comes over to the community center who's trying to like hit on her. And she just keeps rolling her eyes and say, why don't you go do your job? Why do you have to always come around here? He intervenes the kids that are outside the community center who are trying to be recruited by gang members, and gets the gang members to leave. And the gang members are like, oh, we're going to get you, copper. Don't worry. You're a piece of shit, blah, blah, blah. And then we kind of see how that comes around later on into the picture where they're recruiting kids. Then we also have a bad guy who's been out of town, who's finally come back in town and now wanted to increase the level of business. So, which means recruiting these kids to be part of gangs, to be doing things that he wants them to be able to do. So you basically have an impoverished area of Chicago where nobody wants to go visit. So when you think about Chicago, you think about like the deep dish pizza, you think about all the places that you can go to as a tourist that is not this place. And she protects this place. The only thing that I would have wanted out of this, actually, because it is an issue number one, is you see her straight out of the gate in her costume. Everything, just kicking ass. Then she goes back to the community center. She's a regular person dealing with regular stuff. And then later on, she puts on a costume again and she's kicking ass. I don't know why she became what she became. So I don't know if that's going to happen in the later books. But, you know, if we had latitude with something that was being regularly distributed, like monthly in a retail store, then you could probably hang on for the ride and see where that's going to. I don't know when the next issue of this is coming out. It's not bad by any means whatsoever. I would have just loved to see an origin off of her. What I thought was really cool that the artist did, I wish there was a little bit more of it. Let me see if I can pop this up a little bit for you. Is that because it's based out of Chicago and the co-founder or the founder of New Horizon Comics is from Chicago, he put in these ads for, I hope they're like local businesses and sort of like Themas, like indie advertisement. And this one is for, what is it? Ain't She Sweet Cafe. It's a home of captivating Caribbean jerk chicken wrap. And it has 2 locations in Chicago. And it gives the addresses right there. So I wondered if they're actually like, it's a real place. So I thought that was a really cool touch. I thought I was looking for other ads and stuff like that. That would have been cool off of that. But yeah, like I said, by no means, the story was easy to follow. The art is actually really good. There's some really good dynamic figures going on in a lot of it. Really good facial expressions, the coloring mixed in with the right typography on here for the letterer, really doing a solid job. Just overall sound. If this was a monthly, I would definitely be picking it up to find out where it was going. I'm going to see when the next Kickstarter goes off. But yeah, guys, really, really good stuff. Like I said, the only thing I would have loved to see is a little bit more backstory on the lead character, which I think is probably coming. But it did intrigue me to say, okay, you know what? Maybe I'll see if I can get my hands on Spirit, the Woman of Hope, to see, because it's in that first issue where the event happens. It kind of affects everything that's going to happen in this universe. So if you want, you can actually go over to newhorizoncomics.com and check it out for yourself. There's a couple of covers on there that are pretty cool, as well as the Spirit Woman of Hope. So yeah, so beautiful Thema from New Horizon Comics. Kickstarter review. Dude, we've been getting some solid shit off of Kickstarter lately. I think it was Time Sensitive, which I gave to you. That issue 2 just came out. I think issue 2, they changed the name of it. I'm gonna forget what the name. It was called Rogues Gallery.
Right.
They changed the name of it, but issue 2 of that is also come out. So I'm gonna try to see if I can get my hands on that as well. But yeah, guys, I mean, we got definitely the retailers are number one, but there's so many creators that can't get distribution. It's really hard for them, and Kickstarter is a really great way for them to be able to get their work out there. So if you want to support independent comics, I would say hop on to Kickstarter every now and then and see if something tickles your fancy, and just support somebody. And who knows, maybe they'll show up eventually on the retailer shelf, which would be awesome. All right, cool. So that's number 1. You've got number 2.
Yes. So this is from one of my favorite publishers, Oni Press. It is called Dead Teenagers. It is written by Jude Ellison S. Doyle, illustrated by Caitlin Yarsky, lettered by Becca Carey. Sarah Wockrell gets a designer credit, and Allison Gronowitz is the editor. And so I believe Caitlin Yarsky is the same artist from another Oni book that we talked about when it came out a while ago called Jill and the Killers. I can't remember if it's the same writer, but I bring that up because not only in the art style, but sort of the tenor and tone of the story is very similar to that. We mentioned Buffy at the top of the show in reference to Nicholas Brendon. A lot of Buffy the Vampire Slayer vibes as well, because there is definitely a Scooby gang here. Also, it takes place in 1997, at least the brunt of the first issue. Because that's also, I think, when Buffy as a show started, or really started to take off. And the plot is very much like a movie called Happy Death Day, I believe. The one where the girls, it's like Groundhog's Day, but she keeps getting murdered, right? So instead of one girl, you basically have a group of friends. It's about 5 of them. And you are pretty much thrust into the action, and you are looking at so it's interesting because on their prom night in 1997, something horrible happens, and they all die except for your prototypical final girl, Alicia, and so you kind of see this happen. It is labeled scenario number 7,105, giant lizard. So a giant lizard attacks the prom, right? And so basically you get the sense, though, that Alicia and her friends have not necessarily faced this scenario before, but have faced other Final Destination, Happy Death Day type scenarios, and they retain this memory as they relive this night over and over and ultimately die. And it's always, the one friend, Brandy, she dies first, right? You get these little like Polaroids to introduce the characters. So Brandy will always die first. The girl JT will always die horrifically. I don't know if you can see how horrific right there. And then Alicia's boyfriend, Ryder, sort of the Steve, if you do the Stranger Things, right? Sort of the Steve, right, Steve of the crowd, right? That guy right there. Yep. Yeah, he always dies a hero. And then your final girl, Alicia, she always survives. But in this 7,000th scenario, she notices something different, that there's this green glow, and then there's a person with a cloak by the bodies, right? And that's an anomaly. That is the first difference that they've noticed in these scenarios, because you find out prom night 1997, they start their night off by playing this sort of analog video game here.
Yeah.
Do you want to keep going? Yes/no. And apparently this game is the catalyst for them to keep going through these scenarios. And every night when it refreshes, they try and change it. So it's like, what if Ryder is driving drunk? So they don't even make it to the prom, but they still die because they get into a car accident. What if there was
is it always just the one night?
It's always the same night. It's always prom night. What if there's a gas leak, right? And that takes them out. But it all keeps happening, and you basically get a really neat montage of a whole bunch of the scenarios going down until they reach their 11,000th scenario.
Jesus Christ.
And basically, in this 11,000 scenario, the big difference is, or I'm sorry, 11,299 scenario, I believe. The big difference is that Alicia dies first. And then you get a flash forward to the end, to the present day, and you catch up with the survivors, the four kids who are now adults. And there's no sign of Alicia, and it is scenario 11,300, adulthood. So you go from giant lizard to drunk driving to gas explosion to adulthood because your final girl
died first
in this scenario. Okay. So a really good hook, really clean artwork. The writing is just breezy and fresh. Like it doesn't. There's a lot of explanation going on, but it's not overly explained. It's just like quick bits of information to get you to the point where the big moment, the big reveal will happen, every couple of pages. And really
but you still have no idea of
what's going on with this game. You have no idea who the person with the hood is. You have no idea, whether now in this 11,300 scenario, if Alicia is still alive out there somewhere, or did she remain dead and set them now forward? It almost feels though as if they're waking up and they don't realize how they got where they are 30 years later.
That's weird
because it's right at the end. So again, that's all mystery to be played out later on. So does this mean we're going to stick with them in adulthood, or we're going to go back to that night? A lot of scenarios now are on the table after you've seen a whole bunch of scenarios. So I really like that maybe, that first issue is just this one way that this game is going. And now each issue we get a different direction for the game, right? So it's really interesting. Another really neat little narrative hook, narrative technique is JT, her date to the prom. He also winds up getting killed as well, but he's usually hiding right at the sign of danger, and then he gets killed, while hiding or whatnot, at least in the first scenario.
Right.
But you never see who this person is. They're talked about, you see their body and silhouette, but you see when they're hiding, like you see, but you never actually see who this person is. So I thought that was a really funny little hook, little narrative technique, a little sense of mystery. Does this person play into the game, or is it all focused on Alicia? There is a possibility, a bit of a subplot that JT doesn't respond to her acceptance to MIT. And there's sort of this idea like, well, what if you responded to that, before prom night? Maybe that'll change anything. She's like, I don't think so. It probably won't matter. So it's a lot of things at play. And I like a lot of the moving pieces, but it's not overly complex. Like I said, very streamlined, very straightforward, a breezy first issue read. Again, a lot of exposition, but not exposition dump. It just keeps moving. So yeah, really looking forward to more on this one. Dead Teenagers from Oni Press.
All right, awesome. All right, cool. All right, let's take that one off the board. All right, moving on to our last book that we have for this week. This one I was looking forward to. And it didn't disappoint, but there was a little bit of a shocker in there too. All right, let me get the creative crew out of the place, and then it goes into the shocking. So this is Thundercats X Silverhawks Road to War, written by Ed Bryson. Already off to a good start. Artists are Gerardo Gambone, Andrea Akari, Chris Campana, and Elton Tomasi. Colors by Robbie Bavaro and Renato Pacheco. Letters by Jeff Eckleberry. So this book is actually setting up a crossover event that we've not seen in Dynamite yet. Mm-hmm. So when I say crossover event, I mean crossover event. It's a 15-part crossover event through 3 books. I was like, holy crap. I don't know if I'm going to be on for the ride. But then I was like, I read it and I was like, all right, I think I'm in for the ride. So basically, it's none of the books that are currently out now. So it's not Silverhawks, it's not Thundercats, Thundercats Lost, Thundercats Apex. Those books are their own books. This one, the crossover, the 3 books are Thundercats X Silverhawks, Mumra, the Ever Living. Looking forward to that because we get an origin of Mumra for the first time. And then Thundercats X Silverhawks, Thunderhawks. Yeah. So it's basically those 3 books that are going to be crossing over 15 issues. Insane. It's supposed to last 5 months, which is crazy. But I think I'm in for the ride. So this one is basically, it's just giving you sort of like an insight into where these books are coming from and what we're going to see. So we open up with Chitara actually having a nightmare. And so the nightmare is the stuff that you're going to be reading. So she's actually seeing stuff from the past and the future, which is kind of cool. So you're actually on Third Earth when you open up. She's having a nightmare. She wakes up, and then all of a sudden Tiger's there, and he's like, what's going on? And then it brings you into the first story. And the first story's in the past, and it's basically a life lesson for Lino. And the life lesson is basically the more that you help people, they're going to be there for you in the end. So whether you're going to face somebody who's bigger than you, whether you're going to face an army that's larger than you, or whatever, the more that you help people, those people will have you back in the future, kind of thing. And that's what we pretty much get out of that life lesson. And then it goes into the next story, which is Quicksilver. Is out at the edge of the Limbo Galaxy, and he's sort of like monologuing through some narration bubbles and stuff like that, while he's training a new cadet, Chromium, who's sort of like this. He's definitely a teenager. He just doesn't listen at all, and he just gets his ass whipped and almost dies and stuff like that. But basically, what they've done is they've been able to get rid of Monstar, which was their main competition in the Limbo Galaxy. And with him being eliminated or out of the picture, now you have all these different factions coming out of the woodworks trying to be the next big thing. And then so you see them, interacting with some of these biker gang, space gang members who actually end up taking out Chromium in that respects. So that's your second story there. And you walk away with him talking about the cadets not being ready for whatever may be coming, and they might be tight on resources. Then we move into the future. So the future is 3158, and this is called New Bedlama. It's a city called New Bedlama in 6th Earth. Yes, you heard me correctly. There was a 2nd Earth, a 3rd Earth, a 4th Earth, a 5th Earth, now 6th Earth. It's crazy. And so you have sort of like in this future, they've used Silverhawk technology to create these hybrid robots that enforce, I guess, the intergalactic whatever laws and stuff like that. And in this particular planet, in this particular city, they have a curfew. And so these robots are out making sure that curfew is being enforced. And you have this mother, sort of like a tiger kind of thing, a Thundercat, running through the street with her daughter, and it's past curfew, and they're telling her she has to leave, and she's like, my daughter's sick, I'm trying to take her to the doctor, and they're about to blast her. And then all of a sudden you have these 2 let's call them vigilantes for now, hop out. They look like Silverhawks, but you can see patterns on some of their arms, because they have, when you look at the Silverhawks right there, they're not all fully cybernetic, they still have human parts to them. Never made fucking sense, but as a child, you never question it. Like, if you're going to use a cybernetic arm on one side and keep the human arm on the other side, makes no sense. But yes, so one arm is exposed, and you can tell that it's some type of Thundercat or a Thunderian and stuff like that. So they take care of the robot, whatever, and then they amass themselves, and it's 2 fucking Thunderians. But they're going to be called Thunderhawks because they're utilizing Silverhawk technology, cybernetics incorporated with their own body and stuff like that. Looks fucking, I have to show you actually. I'm over here talking about it. I have pictures of it, but this is one of them. I don't know if you can see her there. So you see the spots on the shoulder and stuff like that. And then she's got the little, I guess, it's not the lion. It's sort of like a hawk. Well, it is a lion. of the Thundercats and stuff like that. And then she has 2 sides that have the Thundercat symbols on it. I've never seen the sides before, so I was like, woohoo, I like that. And then there's a big dude that she's with. He's a cool guy as well. I didn't remember his name, but that's him right there. And then he's got his cybernetic arm and stuff like that. So these guys are from the future, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to get back to the past to prevent this future from happening. Now, what part of the past, whether it's on Third Earth and stuff like that, with whatever's going on there, I'm not sure what it is, but they just mentioned they need to get back to the past, and then it ends off with Chitara and Tigra sitting down, trying to figure out what these dreams mean and stuff like that. And we're going to come to find out that it's not a dream and it's more of a premonition that she's been having, which is pretty cool. So I like that part of it. And then we get a sneak preview of the first issue of Thundercats / Silverhawks, and it's basically Quicksilver landing on Third Earth and running into Bengali. And then they just have a scrap and stuff like that. Vulture comes out from the sky, interrupts it. And then you have, which is freaking cool because he was one of my favorite characters, the Copper Kid at the end. He hits him in the back of the head with his disc. And says, "Who are you?" And yeah, Copper Kid. So yeah, listen, whatever we can get back from like the 80s and kind of like give it sort of like this new fresh paint and get it back out there, it'll be pretty cool. The fact that it's being written by Ed Bryson, it lends me to think that this is going to be really cool stuff. It's 15 parts. So whether or not you get fatigue into it and stuff like that, we'll see. But I'm definitely for the ride. So yeah, Dynamite, whatever they've been doing, I forgive you for your messed up codes on the back of the book. But yeah, Thundercats, I guess X Silverhawks, Road to War. Check it out. Gives you some insight on what's going on.
So are you still currently reading both the Thundercats and Silverhawks titles?
I'm not. I was waiting for the trades to come out. So I think Cats 1 and 2 are out, and I think Silverhawks 1 might be out. So I'm picking those up.
So as someone who had started those series and then kind of fell off, waiting to catch up, coming into this one shot, even if you hadn't read what you have read, just a basic understanding, or even not even of the characters in the cartoons or whatnot, if someone was coming in fresh on this one shot, the Road to War, very accessible, gives you everything you need.
If they have some knowledge of the characters, I would say yes.
Which you probably would if you were checking this out. Yeah. Now, what it almost seems like, and I kind of like this structure, that it's going to be out. It's going to be separate from their 2 ongoing titles. It's going to be its own thing. And it looks like the 3 miniseries, you're going to have the main story in the Thundercats X Silverhawks book. It seems like Mumra probably has done some time shenanigans, and you're getting his origin in that could almost be a miniseries that you would be able to probably read independently as well.
Yep.
And then it seems like the Thunderhawks would also sort of be like another side questy kind of thing.
Right.
So even though the narrative or the books will be bouncing between the 3, it almost feels like if you wanted just to pick one and go with it, great. And then if you felt you needed more, then yes, get the other minis.
Yeah.
I like that structure. Yeah.
Possibly. I'm not sure how. I think because they're separate stories, right? I don't know where Mumra fits into it because I know it's going to be an origin story.
Right.
I don't know where the overall arc is going to fit into the Thunderhawks, Silverhawks. But I think I think the Thunderhawks Silverhawks is going to Thundercat Silverhawks is going to be sort of like the current timeline, and then the Thunderhawks is going to be the future, trying to get back to that timeline and then fix everything. So
Mumra will probably be the past and how that past affected where the divergence is. So like I said, I think that's a cool structure. Yeah, that 15 over 5 months. It's actually, when you pace that out, that's 3 books a month if you're only just doing these, right?
Right.
So that's not a terrible investment. And it'll probably be a nice big chunky trade, or 3 separate trades.
Well, it'll be 3 separate trades and then a compendium. But the thing is I don't know if it's going to be considered canon.
Right.
So is this a side thing on its own, or is it part of the canon? And then we introduce Silverhawks to Thundercats, because then
Right.
are they part of the same universe?
Right. So that's the thing this could establish, that they are in the same universe. But with most of these types of stories, there's the encounter, this whole thing happens, time gets reset, and it's like, oh, hey, yeah, we know those guys, we did something with them, all right, moving on, separate separate parts or whatever.
Well, then that means that Third Earth is somewhere in the Limbo Galaxy.
It's true. Yeah.
So we'll have to see. All right. These are all unanswered questions that I want answered in this 15-part miniseries, please.
I don't know if there's room.
All right, that's it. That's all we have for you. So just a really quick recap of what we spoke about. We gave our condolences to the almighty Chuck Norris. We know he's up in heaven. And it's funny, and I mentioned it before we started the podcast, and I thought it was just hilarious. But the fact that somebody said that he's already been dead for 4 years, but the Grim Reaper was just scared to collect his body. It was just hilarious to me. So, yeah, really awesome. Sam, Keith, yeah, man, just going to miss you. All right, I'm going to go upstairs after this, and I'm going to take out my Max #1 and just flip through it and stuff like that.
Nice.
Be like, yeah, bro, you're fucking nice. All right, the books that we had for you this week, did have a Kickstarter book called Beautiful Thema. You can go to newhorizoncomics.com. Check that out if you want. I believe they have another book called Spirit off of there as well. They're connected. They're creating their own universe. So they got something really cool going on over there. Then from Oni Press, you had the Teenagers. And then from Dynamite, you have the crossover. Thundercats Silverhawks Road to War is sort of like the intro issue for the 15-part. I can't believe it. I keep saying that, 15 parts. That's just insane.
16 if you include this one.
Well, yes, this will be 16th off of that one.
And there'll be a bookend to that, so probably 17 all told.
Oh, something. The
end of war,
right?
The end of war one shot, right?
Yes. Yeah. So there you have it. So you have a couple of books for this week, and then as I stated before, we still have about 8 days to go. We're 90% funded. So if you want to head over to projectshadowbreed.com, get us over the finish line, that'd be awesome. You'd be help support indie comics and indie stories. So that'd be freaking cool of you guys to do that. Okay, I believe that's all that we have for you this week. Yeah. That's it, baby. All right, so if you like what you heard, subscribe to the podcast. Better yet, invite 100 of your closest friends. We're here every Monday live at 1 p.m. to talk indie comics. If you're a creator, want to be on the podcast, go over to indiecreatorcomics.com. Fill out the podcast form. John and I would love to have you on the podcast to talk about you and or project you got coming up. If you're on social media, all the social media handles, Indie Creator Comics, you can find us there. Last but not least, support your local comic book shops, because without them, we would not be able to do what we love to do. John, where do you get your books from?
Well, I get my comics at The Joker's Child in Fair Lawn, New Jersey. And as we gear up for Free Comic Book Day in just a little over a month now, we're also going through the toy attic and buying collections and stocking those shelves with a lot of toys that people haven't seen in years. So there's always something new coming out of The Joker Child, even if it's something old. So definitely give us a visit at the Joker's Child in Fair Lawn. If you can't make it there, then definitely go to your local comic shop wherever you live and check out what they got too.
Absolutely. All right, kiddies, until next time, we want to thank you for joining us on the Indie Creator Comics Podcast, where we are all about independent comics.